Senator Hagendorn from Idaho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think some of the comments that have been made are very apropos to what we're doing here, as far as repeating what we're doing here. Many of us have gone to ALEC or CSG or NCSL, and those are great opportunities for us to sit down together in different states and get to know one another, get to understand how other states operate, and collaborate. But there's always other things that are going on. We're always listening to different discussions, or people are lecturing us on this or that. This is an opportunity that I see not only for us to write the rules and procedures for a convention of states, but I think can also do other things to help states and state legislatures collaborate. And that might be where we morph, but I'm hoping that 50 years from now, after this body has visited all of the other capitals, that the folks that are replacing us are sitting here with a lot bigger issues to really address. And maybe one of the things that we're looking at here with this particular resolution, I see us 6 months from now doing almost another identical resolution, and then 6 months from them doing another resolution. And I'm wondering if maybe instead of, because we're discussing right now changing the word from to be present, changing it to be appointed. Maybe is what we need to do is leave the words to be present there and add the words and also appoint your legislative point of contact for the Assembly of States. So that way, when we send the letter to leadership, we copy the person whose collateral duty is in that legislator, the point of contact for the Assembly of States, to help coordinate with leadership, the minority, the majority, to make sure that we get three bodies, at least three bodies here that are present to make the vote. How the rules work will have to be determined by our Rules Committee for how this body operates. But that might help resolve some of the things. I think the gentleman from New Hampshire made a very, very valid point. The more eyes and the more brains you have looking at these things and making comments on these issues, the better product we're going to have. So I wouldn't want to limit any of the states, especially in a bipartisan fashion. We need to have a bipartisan representation here. But I think we're talking about states' rights, not the rights of any political party. And so we need to keep that in mind. We need three bodies here, a minimum of three bodies here. Every state needs to make sure that everyone is represented. And whatever that mix is, I think that leadership, we should give the leadership of that state the opportunity to determine that. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Sain from Colorado.
Thank you, Representative Sain. From Colorado, I want to just make a quick comment because the last gentleman brought up a good point. There's some of us here that have spent a lot of our own funds to get here. It might be also a good idea just to send a copy of the invitation to the folks that attended as well, so we know when our leadership is being contacted. So that's just a suggestion. But one of the points I wanted to make as far as the organization of committees for the next convention that we hold, I would encourage those committees to perhaps take a look at what the Rules and Procedures Committees adopted this time around, because we did spend some significant time organizing ourselves, and the decision was made, regardless of how many a state had in that room, and Indiana and a couple other states had significant amount of guests in the room, that it would be one state, one vote, regardless of the makeup of Democrats, Republicans. And I want to make sure we don't miss the significance of that. We as states were able to organize ourselves to make decisions. And some of these topics were very contentious, and it worked out very, very well. Our committee did not run away. And so as a model, I think that worked out very well, and again, I would encourage maybe some of the other committees to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative
Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Alan Hayes of the Florida Senate. You know, many times the best solution is a simple solution, and I frequently find that a personal contact is far better than a corporate contact. We're talking about missing 17 of our fellow states. I have to believe in this group, each of those 17 states has legislative leaders that are known by people in this body. And that it would be so simple for 17 of us to volunteer to contact the legislative leaders in those states that are missing representation here and say, please join us in December at our next meeting. There's nothing like the personal touch. Pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, we'd love to have you on the team.
The senator makes an excellent point, and one of the tasks that I had in the past month or so was a list of, I think it was about 15 senators and presidents who hadn't responded, and I had folks who didn't return my call. I called the New Mexico Speaker of the House, and a lady, very nice lady, answered the phone and said, this is Marilyn, and I said, yeah, I'd like to schedule maybe a 5-minute phone conference with the Speaker anytime in the next few days he would have. And she said, well, just a moment. And about 10 seconds later, a fellow answered the phone and said, yeah, this is the Speaker. What can I do for you? So we have a whole variety of ways that people operate their offices. And one of the things to continue on your comment is that the relationships are important. And part of that is part of the success of this is because we had a president of the Senate hosting this, and he encouraged several of his fellow senators to go out and make that appointment. We have President of the Ohio Senate here, Senator Faber's here today. Where I'm going with this is you need to go ask your speaker to call other speakers, or your president to call other presidents. Bill Batchelder, the Speaker in Ohio, is very supportive of this. And he spoke at a meeting of the speakers several months ago about this. But as we all know, it needs to be emphasized over and over. We have people who are recalcitrant, and we have people who just never got around to it. So it's an excellent point, Senator. Representative Townsend from Arizona.
Thank you. As you were speaking, I actually was thinking about our colleagues who wanted to come today. But for financial reasons, we're unable to come. And I wonder about that too as well. And the thought occurred to me, what if we had interim regional meetings that were less formal, that we could get those folks together, debrief them, and kind of help them feel a part of this so they may be more inclined to come to the official meetings and save that money needed. I don't know if you've talked about that or thought about that, but I thought that might be something that would be beneficial.
Yeah. Interesting suggestion, Representative. In addition, the use of technology, whether it's teleconferences or Skype, I'm not sure it's because Representative Kapiga didn't want to look at my face, but we've done everything over the phone only. So, but there's a lot of opportunities to communicate. Agreed. Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Caldwell from Florida. Just a thought, and it's not to any amendment on the resolution, but as we discussed the thought of having 3 people from each of the states, clearly we're discussing the difficulty of getting some states to participate at a greater amount than they have so far. But for those of us from states that do have a high commitment, a thought occurred to me that as we return this fall after the elections, we'll have to readopt rules in all of our chambers respectively. All of our bicameral states obviously have joint committees that exist between the 2 chambers usually, at least we do in Florida, for example. Those states, I think, that are favorably disposed to being active participants in this process, we perhaps should suggest to add to those rules a joint committee formulated of those 3 appointees that we're requesting, giving it a formal structure that exists with some kind of permanence within our respective states, and then perhaps provide as a model that keeps this from falling into the background, as it were.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Representative Keller from Alaska.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I was at the Mount Vernon Assembly number 1, and I neglected to make these statements regarding the bipartisan discussion that we've had. I think the excellent points have been made today. I'm not going to repeat them. If this were a committee process, I would propose that we make a motion. I would make a motion that we delete the word bipartisan out of the resolution. I have faith in the leadership, and I trust them to bring this along, and I just want to put this on the record that I believe that is just really an important way to go. We take an oath to office, whether we're Republican or Democrat. I'm a Republican, and we all swear to uphold the same Constitution. And by putting the term bipartisan in there, what we're really doing is restricting ourselves in the Assembly of Legislators, because our efforts are focused on upholding the Constitution, and they're not on making sure that we have the parties represented. So I think that, you know, it's obviously we want both parties, we need both parties involved, but I don't think we have to enforce it. I think I'm a Republican again, but I think the Democrats know that if they're not at the table, they may be on the menu, but it also that would mean that we would fail on our purposes. So, you know, if this were a committee, I'd be proposing that we do that. It's not really, you know, we're just kind of feeling our way, learning who we are. So I just want to make these statements on the record and appeal to everybody to trust the leadership to press on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.